Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be frogging this wool sweater. And if you didn't see my last video, go back and check that out first because I gave you a lot of tips on how to not make the mistake of buying the wrong sweater and wasting your time and money and picking the right sweater to frog. So in this case, I've got a 100% wool sweater. You can see the tag says it's made in Ireland. Yeah, made in Ireland, 100% wool. And when I look at the seams, I can see that the seams are not serged. So there's no serged edge. We've got a nice braid going down here. We've got a nice braid going across here. And those are the really important things. So have a look at my last video and I'll tell you more about that. But now I'm going to get to start frogging this. And so I'm going to start by frogging the side seams. So I'm going to try and open up the side seam and around the shoulder and free basically to separate the pieces as much as possible. So I'm going to start at the hem and some things unravel from the hem and some unravel from the shoulder, but generally wherever you find an end that's been woven in, and sometimes they've actually been stitched in, that's where you want to start. So I'm going to give you a bird's eye view. It's always a bit of a detective case because you've got to figure out how to do it, and it's a little bit of trial and error. You have to be patient, but it's worth it. Okay, let's go. Okay. So I'm looking here at the neck. Do you see that there's these teeny, I don't know, you might not be able to see, there's tiny threads like someone has actually stitched it. And I can see an end that's being woven in and stitched. Let me look at this end here. See again, do you see that like actual thread? But I can also see that there's an end here that's been woven in. I wanna snip sparingly because I don't want to snip something that's important. But at the same time, I have to kind of just yank on it and see where. Do you see here too? Do you see these bars going across? That's part of the stitching that's holding it together. So sometimes I'll also give one or two of those a snip. There we go. You see how that's already opened up. Now on finer gauged garments, that's a little bit harder to do. But here we can see that that is just starting to come apart. Okay, let's see if I pull this. I also don't worry as much about the ends of the ribbing because I know that I'm probably not even gonna use that part. And I like to open it up so I can really see what I'm doing. And eventually I'm going to find one. So because this isn't unraveling, it makes me think that actually it's going to unravel from the top. So I'm going to follow this all the way to the top. Again, see this big chunky, the whole thing appears to be double-stranded. Aha, there we go. Finally hit one. And then I need to very carefully remove this tag. You can do this at the beginning. I tend to be impatient and just do it as I go. I just tend to stick with the scissors. Okay, so now I've got this out. And then, watch. Okay. These that come off, I generally either discard or I wind them separately and notate that they're different because they are often, there we go. They are often a slightly different density or texture. Plus they're short, and so they're not really particularly useful unless you're just at the point where you need a little more yarn to finish off your project. So if they're small enough, I throw them away. If they're not too terribly small, then I might wind them up and hold on to them. I've got little ends here that I'm not precious about cutting occasionally. If I lose a little bit of yarn because of it, it doesn't really bother me, to be totally honest. Okay. I'm gonna just get rid of it. Okay, so here's the double knit neck, which I can save and perhaps do something with. This one's perhaps a little more challenging because it's in a texture. However, now let's look here at where the neck meets the shoulder seam. See, again, I can see a connecting, see if you pull it, you can see connecting bars going across. That's what we're going to get rid of. But if we find the right thread, it should just open up. But you do have to find the right thread. And I haven't found any better way than to just kind of keep yanking on it and see what comes. Here we go. There we go, found it. Do you see I've got this, and as I pull it, there. So now I know that this is attached from top down as opposed to bottom up, and it just depends on the sweater. Now we've reached an intersection. Again, I'm going to put that aside. And now I'm going to open up the other shoulder. There we go. That was an easier one to find. Turn it around a little bit so you can see. Okay. So now I've opened the front neck. This is the front neck down to the raglan line. And now I'm looking, and do you see this little end here? Is that visible? See that end? That end has probably been woven in, and that's probably the end we want to unravel the sides. Like I said, I see actual thread in here, which to me means that they've sewn in the ends, like with thread, so that they won't come free. So I'm going to give them a couple little snips. It's a lot of just pulling and seeing what wants to come apart. Like I can see that's been stitched all the way along. So that's not going to go anywhere unless I remove it. There we go. There we go, found it. Okay, one more. And then we'll have the side seams fully removed. See this here? This is definitely probably what we want, but it also has probably been sewn in this case. And it just depends on the sweater. Every sweater is different. So, okay. Lost my battery there for a second, but I'm all back. So I found this one here. And you see how it sometimes stays within one portion, and so you just have to continue to pull it out. Got another tag here. And then there's one more stitch here that's I can see is left over. So I'll get rid of that. And then I do find down at the bottom of the hem to be a little funny, so I don't generally worry about them too much. Okay, so now we've got two separate pieces. Right here, what have I got here? Right here I've got a body. So you can see here, this was where the neck was, the raglan line, and I'm gonna move the rest of it to the side. Now that I've separated this whole spot, I'm going to look at the top and see where it wants to unravel from. I often find that the first few tries are kind of false tries because certain things have gotten snipped at the top, and so where are we here, folks? Where are we? You can also take these little edges and you can turn them into stuffing for dolls or dryer balls, or, like it doesn't have to go in the garbage. It's wool, it can be used in different ways. But here we go. I'm just gonna get to the end here. Okay, so it's going to be from this end, but I've got to get rid of all these little bits first from around the neckline. And then what you'll find is eventually it will just keep moving. So we've got, here we go. Nope, not quite. So we've got all this that we can do something with later as scraps. We're almost there, I can feel it. We are almost there. There. I feel like this is going to be it now. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm one off. Oh no, here we go. So once you've got it going, fold it in half and in half again so it becomes manageable and you have these ends to work off of. Hold it so that it's steady, and now you should be able to just unravel a bit, wind a bit. Again, there, at the beginning there will still be little bits from the edges, and you don't want them to get caught. You can see how thick this is. It's a really nice thickness. So I have used a ball winder for this before, especially when the yarn is finer and there's a lot more of it. I will sometimes use a ball winder, and I'll do the same thing. I'll have it folded like this on the edge of my kitchen island, and then I will slowly take off 3 or 4 lengths and then wind 3 or 4 lengths. I have seen people make contraptions to unwind it. You can hang it up. Sometimes if I'm using a ball winder and the yarn is very, very smooth and very easy, like the cotton cashmere, I sometimes hold it up and then just wind, and it just on its own. But in this case, I actually really don't mind hand winding. I find it quite meditative and therapeutic. And so, yeah, I don't mind doing it this way. So I'm just gonna keep going. And I don't know, tell me what you guys think of this. I might sometime just get my next one that's coming. Maybe I'll just do a in real time unwinding a sweater. But this is such a classic Aran Irish sweater that I think has beautiful yarn. And I did wash the whole sweater first. So I may skein this up and soak it again, but I did wash the sweater first. Especially when it's coming from someone else's house. As opposed to from a thrift store where people are buying it and it's in a kind of dirtier environment, I have found that when I do sweaters online, that generally they show up very clean because they've just come out of someone's closet, and also that person wants a good review, and so they tend to be really good about it. Anyway, I'm going to continue like this, and I will come back to you when I have separated one of the sleeves. I've separated the front, I guess this is the front, and the 2 sleeves, and I will now do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to continue unwinding the front here. This front did a lot better than the back did. I don't know why, but I didn't have any little short bits like I did with the other one. So it's going to be a lot cleaner, the amount of yarn I'm going to get from it. And see, sometimes this happens where it gets a little bit stuck. Rather than just continuing to yank, pull it apart a little bit, because it might just be a felted bit. That happens too. Sometimes if the sweater is a little bit used, you might hit a felted bit, especially under the arms, and it might be a little sticky. So it's still totally, usable. You might just need to slow down and hand do it like I am right now. And if you feel resistance, slow down and just sort of pull it apart a bit. Just pick it apart. And then yarn, 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 yarn. Look at all this gorgeous yarn. I can't wait. Okay, I think I've shown you all the pertinent bits. I will be sure when I have finished to insert a photo of it all done and the meter or the weight if I have it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm gonna go now and meet my husband for a coffee and bring my unknitting with me and continue frogging.